Hi guys, welcome to the One Small Change podcast. This is episode 5, and today on the show I'm really excited to have Mr. Ben Alldis, one of the lead instructors of Peloton UK, which is one of my favorite brands right now. Anyone that knows me, anyone that's seen me on Instagram will know that I'm on my Peloton bike literally every single day. I have a mild pathological addiction to it. And for those of you that don't know about Peloton, it is it's a movement, to be honest with you. I mean, it is a spin bike in essence, but it really is so much more than that. And we'll talk a lot about that and the community that they've built, millions of subscribers now, and what Ben's thoughts are on that. Ben's got a really, really interesting story, moving from finance into fitness, working in the city and transitioning over to being part, as I say, of a really exciting community. So I'm sure we'll dive right into that. And I'm also very selfishly hoping to extract as many tips and hints on how he gets in such spectacular shape and his diet and his exercise regimes and all of those sort of things. So, yeah, welcome, Ben.
Thank you so much for having me. And I've been looking forward to this. So it should be a good 45 minutes to an hour. So looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, it should be good. As I said to you before the call, it's funny to see you in person talking to me. I see you most mornings on my bike, but it's very much a one-way relationship in that situation.
Well, I like to think of it as a two-way relationship, even if you can't see you guys.
Yeah.
A lot of people mention, they say, "Can you see me?" And it's like, no, like, please slightly different if you saw all these people on camera. But imagine, maybe one day we can do that.
I think it'd be cool. Cool. So as I said in the intro, I'd really the thing that I found most interesting about your story is this move from finance into fitness, which is really I'm always fascinated when people make big life changes. And the decision-making processes that go behind those. So if you can just give us a bit of information about that journey, how you made the decision. Was it a difficult one or was it a really sort of straightforward one? If you could speak to that, that'd be really interesting, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And for those who don't know, obviously I'm a sort of Peloton instructor now. So I teach both cycle and strength at Peloton. I've been with them for just over 2 years now, but previously to doing that, I used to work in the private equity industry. So I was working as a investment associate at a large sort of private equity firm here in London. And I was really, really enjoying it. I'm an economics graduate from Leeds University. However, my main passions have always lied in sport, sort of sport, community, and also business. So from a young age, I was playing pretty much every sport under the sun. Played quite a high level of football, ran track and field for sort of my region, but also was playing cricket and played rugby at university. So sport was a big part of my life from a very young age. My dad was also sort of an accomplished sportsman himself, and he ran some of my sports teams. So even though I was working in this world of finance, I still had a massive passion for fitness. And it was becoming very apparent to me that when I joined the world of finance, in my first year, I was working such long hours that sort of this fitness world sort of left me a little bit. And I didn't even have a gym membership in my first year of finance because I was working, 12, 14 days, 14 hours a day. And after my first year, I sort of took a little step back and thought, why am I not enjoying this quite as much as I should be, or I thought I would? And I think the main thing for me was I wasn't doing the sports side of things. So I got back into my health and fitness, started going to loads of group fitness classes in London. And at the time, it was when group fitness classes were becoming quite a big thing in London. Became, in a sort of way, obsessed with these group fitness classes. So I was doing five a week or something, meeting lots of people, loving the energy that was coming from this industry, the fitness industry. And within that, was sort of how do I get into this? I really love doing this, but I also am loving my job in finance. And then basically decided to start teaching classes. At the time, one of the sort of bosses of one of these boutique gyms asked me, you just give it a go. I had my personal training license from university. Got it while I was playing rugby there, and she was like, just try it out, give a class a go. So I tried one spin class, Funny story, Piers Morgan actually walked into my class, my very first
No
spin
way.
class ever. So quite a tough critic.
Yeah, absolutely. The worst.
Maybe the worst, but maybe it's a harsh reality of how good or bad it was. But anyway, it was, I did my first one quickly turned into, I think I was teaching about 6 classes or 6 to 10 classes a week at one point. So at one point I was teaching 2 classes in the morning before I went to work, 3 days a week. Wow. And then we'd do weekend classes as well, alongside my full-time job in finance. So it's getting quite unsustainable, I must admit. But then at a sort of point of transition, I was looking for new opportunities. And then Cody Rigsby, our master instructor at Peloton, actually sort of slid into my DMs as such. And basically said, like, I've got this opportunity. Would you be interested? At the time, this is back in 2018, Peloton wasn't a household name in the UK. So I didn't really know who this guy was, what he was talking about. I sort of knew the story of Peloton, but I didn't really understand the full context of it. So if I'm honest, I didn't really engage with that message that much. But he was quite persistent. He dropped into one of my classes and actually stopped me after the class and said, that was a really great class. Like, can we go for a coffee?
Well, what did you say to the DM then? Had you just said, no, not for me at the moment?
I think I just ignored it.
Oh, really?
Like, it was sort of, Instagram wasn't a massive thing for me at the time. I had like maybe 7,000 followers or something. I was a Puma ambassador, and it was a secondary job for me. So my main focus was obviously my the community that I had at the gym I was working at, and then my job in finance. Yeah. So I think Instagram was like just a part of that, but it wasn't my main focus. I think I saw it and just thought, it would be crazy to transition from my job in finance. Yeah. So I just left it, and then literally the next day he turned up to my class as a surprise. Like, he didn't tell me. Yeah. And he was just in the front row, and I didn't even know who he was. So I obviously just taught the class normally. And then after the class, he actually said to me, "Hey, really love that class. My name's Cody. I did message you on Instagram. I'd love to take you for a quick coffee." And I was like, "Who is this guy?" But I actually went for the coffee with him, and he, during the coffee, basically said to me, I have an opportunity which is going to change your life. So obviously you can take it or you can't, but or you don't, sorry. But you'd be silly not to take this opportunity, basically. And obviously at the time I was like, does this guy know, I work in finance? Does this guy know, what I do outside of this? And he was like, I know what your background is. And I've done so much research into you, but I promise you this opportunity is going to be mega for you. And to be honest, he was right. It was the best opportunity that he could offer me at that point in time. I was looking to transition into something more health and fitness. To be honest, I was looking more into the finance side of that. So I had an into sort of Deliveroo, and was looking into how I can move into the market, but more on the business side. Yeah, a
safer move in many ways.
But then, a safer move. But long story short, at that point in my life, something actually quite massive happened for me. And I, just to put it shortly, I basically was told I had skin cancer at the time. So how this came about was a client of mine just during one of my classes said, "Hey, have you ever got your skin checked up? You've got quite a few moles. I'm a doctor, and I'm just worried about you. Just want to make sure that you are getting checked up." Yeah. Within a day, I went to see a specialist just to get checked up because I hadn't done for a little while. And unfortunately, a couple of days later, he actually sat me down and said, "I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to basically operate tomorrow." It just happened within a week. And I actually had at the time stage 2/stage 3 melanoma. So this was in the transition period of meeting Cody, Peloton came about. Yeah. And suddenly this big sort of slap in the face was this might not even happen for you, because he actually told me worst case scenario, it could be 6 months, depending on how bad it was.
As in you sat in the chair. As in you'd only have 6 months.
Yeah. So if it had spread to the rest of my body at that time, it could have been worst case scenario 6 months.
Wow. God.
And this is what he said to me in the chair. after literally, I think it was like a week later or something after Cody had come to my class. So it was a bit of a world had been spun upside down,
Absolutely.
and there was loads of emotions going through my body. I'm not an overly sort of massive crier, but I came out the practice and just bawled my eyes out, called my dad, and he was like obviously super surprised. I hadn't even told him I'd been to the actual appointment, so it was a bit much. But I think for me, that moment basically showcased to me that I need to be doing something that I have like a massive passion for. So that basically made me realize that this opportunity is the one I want to go for. So although I was leaning towards it anyway, it was a massive like, let's just give this a go. So I then, following that, went to audition in New York. So they flew me across to New York. I had 2 auditions, 2 separate sort of periods, and I think maybe like 10 interviews. And they offered me the job. So I was like, obviously over the moon. But even during this period, I was getting operated on and wasn't really sure if I could even take the job. So it was a bit, I didn't really know what was going on. But then fortunately, everything worked out. I think 2 or 3 weeks before my training process started, my stitches had healed, and then I went into Peloton as if nothing happened.
Yeah, amazing. And what was that? What was that interview process like? What was the? Were you there with a load of other people that they had pulled in, or was it sort of more one-on-one? How did it work?
So it was more of a one-on-one. So we didn't actually meet anyone else. So what they do, or what we do currently, I think they did back then, is they cast a load of people. So they have a big pool, and then I think Cody whittled us down. So I think he went to about 12 classes in London,
right?
Just to look at the people he was interested in, and then he probably cut that down. So I think we were down to like the last 6 at that point. And then actually they were only looking for 2 UK instructors at the time. So so I think only 6 went to New York to audition and interview. And I'll be honest with you, the interview process was quite grueling. Like Robin Arzon is an absolute superwoman, but she was very like, is this right for you? I think she was a bit skeptical that I hadn't had much camera experience. I'd done a bit of modeling and I was comfortable in front of the camera, but I hadn't had much filming camera stuff. So, she was grilling me during an hour interview. We met John Foley, the CEO, William Lynch, who's obviously on the board as well. Like, it was straight in the deep end, and you obviously had to showcase them why you were going to be different to all the other sort of superstar instructors that they already had. So yeah, it's a long, I think it was 6-month process in total. The audition for me was quite big because, I'd been teaching and coaching classes, but I'd never been in front of a camera coaching a class. So It's a new experience, but I went in, I think because I was fueled by this, all the emotions that were coming with the transition and obviously what I was going through at the time, I just literally gave them everything. And that obviously came across on camera that I was really into it and really wanted it at the time. And they fortunately decided to give me the offer.
Yeah. And then, so you hadn't, at that point, until you got the offer, you were still working part-time finance, full-time finance, and then around the outside of that, doing your spin classes. And then as soon as you got that offer, that's when you handed in your notice, was it, to the finance company, to the private equity firm?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And they were quite shocked actually, because I was on a good path in my career in that industry, and it's a great industry. Like, private equity is super exciting, it's super fast moving, and I think a lot of people, when they talk about the transition, actually they don't badmouth the industry, but I definitely don't. Like, in a sense, like, I really loved the industry. I think it's an amazing space to work in. It just wasn't fitting the passions that really like my top priority. Whereas this sort of Peloton marries fitness, community, and business together. So for me, it was just a better option. And it's obviously proven to be a massive success. So it was a good decision for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said before the call, you felt after all that everything that you've been through with the cancer and everything, that you had to follow your passions, right? That was something that was the guiding light for your decision-making process.
Yeah, I think I had a chat with my dad following the last appointment I had with this sort of plastic surgeon who actually helped me with the operation, or did the operation. And he basically sat me down for coffee, and he was very skeptical of the Peloton opportunity to start because it wasn't a big name. He worked with a couple of sort of professional sportsmen. He worked in banking, but they were sort of did the other way. So they went from professional sport into banking. And he was a little bit like, you know, they've said that it sort of may be a great opportunity for a short period of time, but then once you're not the biggest name, what are you going to do next, sort of thing. And he's very traditional. He's worked at Barclays Bank for over 35, almost 40 years now. So he's a very traditional sort of banking person. But once this had all come to light and we'd been through that together, he was like, I just want you to do what makes you happy. And obviously at the time, like all I could think about was, you know, being a coach and fulfilling my passions through doing that. So
that's awesome. I love it. I read a Stoic quote recently that says we live our fears as mortals, but we live our desires as immortals. And it's completely the wrong way to look at it, because you think you've got forever to reach your passions and to do your desires, but actually we all have a very short time on this earth. And I think you've made completely the right call there, doing what makes you happiest.
Yeah, I think I hope that my story, obviously it's quite an extreme story, but it gives people, you know, a bit of maybe a wake up. It definitely gave me a wake up, that, you know, you have to live every day as it comes, and you need to be doing something you really love doing, and maybe stop chasing like the money or career succession. And because I am in a totally different mindset and headspace now. I'm working in this industry, and we can get onto that a bit later, but it's all about purpose and fulfillment for me. And it's by giving back to our community and giving back to so many people through the Peloton sort of space, I am feeling like 200% more fulfilled. And I would have never known that, you know, like it was a decision I made, it's a pivot I made, but I'm so grateful for that stage of my life happened. Because now I've got to this place, and obviously hopefully I'll build from here. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's brilliant. So, I mean, let's dive into Peloton a bit. I mean, spin bikes have been around for years in home gyms. I know my dad's had one since the 90s at his house. And it's sort of just been something in the background that a few select people have. But certainly over the last year, more and more of people I know have been buying Pelotons and talking about it, and not just talking about it casually, but talking about it with such extreme enthusiasm. I first heard about it through Tim Ferriss, actually, a couple of years ago, and he was incredibly positive about it. And obviously with my own experiences, I'm completely hooked. But what from your end do you think makes it so effective and cuts through all the other competition, and why it's having such rapid growth?
I think the main things for us, and what we sort of pride ourselves on, are the concept itself is incredible. Obviously, we were one of the first movers in the market. But just to give you, I don't know how much you know about the initial story, but John Foley basically used to go to a boutique studio in New York. And him and his wife used to try and do the sort of swap. So his wife would go in the morning, then they do the swap. One would have the kids then, and then the other one would go an hour later.
Sounds like me and my wife on the Peloton.
They could never get booked in. Yeah, they could never get booked into these classes in New York because it was so oversubscribed. And he was like, "This is crazy. Like, it's, you know, there's so much demand, but there's not enough supply. Even though there's studios on every single street in New York." So he's like, you know, the best concept would be to allow as many people as possible to come to this by filming it. So he came up with the concept. Obviously, this was back in 7 or 8 years ago. And I think pulling out from that, the main benefits of Peloton for me are the fact that the comfort, like the fact that you can do it from your own home, it makes such a difference. Like you can really schedule into your day, as opposed to trying to have to meet a certain time to meet like your favorite instructor at a certain gym. You can literally schedule it into your day whenever you fancy and whenever you need to. On top of that, it's the convenience. So, you can literally do it whenever you want. I always see myself doing, like, if I miss the morning, I'll do it at lunchtime, or you do it in the evening. You can do that same class with your favorite instructor, with the favorite music that you've chosen sort of through the Peloton platform, whenever you want, which is, I think, the main reason why people love it so much. On top of that, I think the data that we provide gives our members an accountability. It also creates a real nice community. Obviously, the leaderboard aspect of stuff's amazing. Even though you're at home on your own, on your Peloton bike, the community is truly unique. Like, we've got now over 3.6 million members.
Wow.
Who are really active on social media and very supportive of each other. And I think it's now become a massive part of people's lives. Like, I think there's a massive positive to be said about sort of health and fitness and getting your body moving, but there's a different element of what we do, in the sense that people have found friends through Peloton. People have got married through Peloton.
Really?
I think because it's such a positive and amazing community, people like to be a part of it, because it allows them to be better themselves and be better for those around them. So yeah, it's a combination of obviously the comfort, the convenience, the control, so they can literally pick whatever class they want on the platform. We have such a range of classes now. Obviously, we've got the cycling classes, we've got boot camp cycle, we've got tread cycle, we've got treads, we've got yoga, meditation, loads of strength classes. So we're pretty much hitting the nail on the head for most things that people are after right now. And then I think, the community is the massive thing for me. I think it's the difference within Peloton. I think fitness is amazing in a sense that people can be part of a gym, but obviously our gym's 3.6 million member big now, and you can really connect with your community within the community. So I don't know if you've seen, but there's a lot of Facebook groups set up for sort of instructor fan pages, but also like Peloton moms, Peloton dads, like loads of people create communities within Peloton to sort of ride along with their crew as such, which is amazing.
Yeah, my wife's pregnant at the moment, and she likes to use the hashtag Prego Pelotoners, I think. But yeah, no, I mean, for me, I've probably got about 5 close friends now who have got one. One of them lives in Munich, and obviously we're all in lockdown in London at the moment. And we get together Saturday mornings and just bash out a ride together, 30 minutes, and kill each other with our competitiveness. But it's an amazing thing to be able to do. I mean, as I say, one of our friends lives in Munich. We rarely get to meet up, especially at the moment, and it's really great for that. And I think the other thing for me that is so special about Peloton is, and I think me and you are on the same page on this one, I love going to festivals. I love going to, in my younger years, going to raves and just going and listening to dance music and going to Ibiza, and I always flip to the electronic music filter that you can put on Peloton, and it's like, I mean, obviously we can't go clubbing at the moment, but it's like 6 a.m. I'm on a full rave. I mean, I've done your Calvin Harris ride probably 3 times now, and I saw Calvin out in at XS in Las Vegas about 6 years ago, and every time I listen to it, it just takes me back.
So good, isn't it? It's actually so fun. Like, we obviously tapping into more music is such a big part of what we do, and I think everyone will agree that music is literally such a big part of our lives. And I think the fact that we get to marry that with something so good in fitness, it just creates like magic. It's like, I literally do the same thing as you. Like, I literally jump on the bike, do a ride, and it just takes you back to some amazing memories of, going to festivals, going to clubs. But you're not necessarily doing the downsides of that of drinking and feeling terrible the next day. You actually feel better. So it's like
exactly. It's a double win.
It's a win-win.
And you used to be a DJ, didn't you?
Yeah, so sort of during my university days, I used to be involved in like club nights and stuff, and then I got into DJing myself. So yeah, like I absolutely love it. I've actually just bought myself a new setup, so trying to get back into
Oh,
it.
nice.
It takes a lot of time. Like I'm quite a perfectionist when it comes to that sort of thing. So you've got to really like be obsessed with your music collection, be constantly finding music. And I think the way that we do things at Peloton is very different to the way that I would do things as a DJ. So obviously my main focuses have to be on my classes. But I just do it as a hobby now. So when we can have parties, again, I'll just set it up and have like little jam and my mates. And when we're with our friends and stuff, it's always good to have like a DJ there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely love it.
Brilliant. Well, let's get on to, I mean, we touched a little bit on mindset before. And I imagine mindset for you at the moment is incredibly important for everyone with the lockdown, the pandemic and everything. But you have to be on your best performance. Probably, I don't know how many days you have to do a class a week, but probably 4 or 5 days a week. No matter what your emotional state is at that time, you have to just switch on and give the show, because you're the energy, you're the hype man, you're the energy boost for thousands of people that are riding and tuning in to watch you. So how do you manage that mindset? How do you find the energy when actually you could be knackered or just not in a good mood?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's an important question, because like I don't feel 100% every day. Like sometimes I think people think we as instructors are superhumans. However, like I know that when I jump on that camera, well, my goal is to be the best 30 minutes, 45 minutes of someone's day. So I know that I have to not only bring energy, I put a lot of time and effort into the planning of my playlists and music to make sure that that's on point. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Like I feel so lucky and fortunate to do the job I do. So, even on a bad day, I remind myself like why I'm doing it. And it's super fulfilling to be able to help and support every single one of the members that does my classes. And we get a lot of like messages from people saying thank you and telling us like their journeys and their stories, which is obviously very fulfilling and very nice to hear. But don't get me wrong, there's still days where I'm really not feeling great. It's been a tough year for all of us. And I think it's important to note that everyone's had a really, really sort of tough, challenging year, both on the sort of mental health side. But for me, it's that fulfillment, like doing like working for Peloton, but also being an instructor at Peloton. I've really found my purpose, and having that purpose gives me such fulfillment. So I think the main sort of tips I would give people are just, make sure you find moments in your day to tap into those things that give you fulfillment, give you purpose. I'm very fortunate within my job that I'm giving back a lot of the time, and that obviously gives me a lot of energy. I think one of the things when I was younger was I was too focused on being the best and being, super successful, earning loads of money. And within that, you forget that that's just all about you.
Yeah.
But now over the last few years and sort of as I've sort of grown older, the more realization of the more you give, the more fulfilled you feel and the more you get. So, I think the more you can sort of connect with people, the more you can give, the better you're going to feel, the more motivated you're going to feel. Obviously, I have a lot of things in my day which help me do that. So like I love journaling. I don't do that every single day, but sometimes when I'm not feeling too great, I'll sit down, write down sort of 3 things I'm grateful for, but also just plan out exciting things that are coming up, or, write down on paper things that I need to be getting excited for right now. Because sometimes you get stuck in like a tunnel vision and you can only think about the day that's ahead of you. But life's exciting. There's so much exciting stuff going on even right now. And it's getting excited and being grateful for even the small things, like having the opportunity to jump on a bike every single day is pretty, not everyone has that opportunity. So for me, it's like being grateful for those moments as well as the big moments. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think focusing on the small things is a massively underrated and very, very important part of mental health management and gratitude. I've talked about this a few times on the podcast. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is, as soon as my feet touch the ground, I try and focus on something that I'm grateful for that day, even if it's just the fact that I'm still breathing. I've used the 5-minute journal. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's a very similar
it's great
concept to what you're talking about there. And I found that to be really, really powerful. So yeah, I think focusing in on the small things, because it's easy to be like, I'm grateful for materialistic things, or I'm grateful for the bigger things in life. But actually, if you have gratitude for things that are very small, like the fact that you're healthy, and as you say, like on Peloton, all the instructors always say, like, well done for clipping in, like that's the hardest bit, and you're here, and it is so important. Like health, I think people have got so much more of a focus on it now than ever before, and I think it's really, really important to focus on that.
Yeah, I think a quote that one of our instructors, Jess Sims, always says is that you don't have to, you get to, which is true when it comes to health and fitness. Like, health is wealth, and it's super important to look after ourselves. But like, you're choosing to like better yourself. You're choosing, and you have the opportunity and the chance to do that. Not everyone has that. So that in itself is something that we all need to be grateful for on a daily basis. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned the journaling. Do you have quite a lot of structure in your day to day? Do you record I mean, I know you guys have classes at different times, but do you have quite a hectic schedule, or is it do you build structure into it for your own mental health? What's your morning routine like? Yeah, it's a strange one as an instructor, because our days are actually very different every day. Because of the scheduling, we teach classes in the evening, late at night, and really early in the morning. So some of our classes are at 6 a.m. Some of them are at like 7 p.m. So sometimes your day could be, on a Monday, you're teaching at 7 p.m. and then you're back in early. So I think, whereas before, when I used to work in finance, I was super structured. Like, I'd be up at 5, 6. I was like obsessive over like hydration, making sure my body was fueled with like electrolytes, workout or coach in the morning. And then when I get to work, it was like quite structured with like my food and everything. It was great, because that was the lifestyle that I was trying to work towards at that time. Right now it's a bit more flexy, because I have to be, because I think I have to manage my energy levels to make sure that when I am on the bike, I'm at my 100%.
Yeah.
But the constants I like to sort of tap into are, I try and get my body moving every single day. That doesn't have to be like a super intense workout every day, but even on rest days, like me and Leanne, my girlfriend, who's another Peloton instructor, we love to like just get outside and go for a walk. Especially at the moment, like there's nothing worse than just being stuck inside all day.
Yeah.
So that really helps us. We try and do that as early as possible. Like if we both have early morning classes, we might come back and do that straight away. But if we're both at home, we'll try and get up, get ourselves ready, coffee, water, then go out for like, 45-minute walk or something. Because it just helps you have a bit of a moment to like be like, right, I'm alive, like let's go. Whereas if you get too quickly into work, sometimes you can get lost. And I found myself doing that over this start of lockdown, because we were actually working super hard, because obviously we were still producing, still working, and we were teaching from our bedrooms. I don't know if you did any of those classes. I
think that was before
so
my time.
Our work was as our home. But yeah, no, it was the main constants for me are obviously try and get your body moving, either obviously an intense workout or, go for a walk, or even like meditation, yoga, something like that. Lots of hydration, massively key. I've been through periods of like being massively dehydrated and really seen the impacts it has on my body. I think a lot of people underestimate how much it can impact you, both physically and mentally. So yeah, making sure you get a lot of hydration in. If you do sweat a lot, like during workouts, getting the electrolytes in as well. Because I have a trouble with like, if I drink too much water, I just need the toilet all the time.
Yeah.
So what helps me is I just take electrolytes, because it has the same key ingredients, but you just don't have to take as much fluid in.
Okay. What do you take? What do you take specifically on that?
So I've ranged them up. I like the SIS ones. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're sport and science and sport, I think they're called. But yeah, like most of them are pretty similar. Just the ones that don't have too much sugar in, because otherwise you're, just unnecessarily drinking sugar. But just the electrolytes that have, all the key sort of hydration vitamins, minerals, but then don't give you too much sugar. I do take probiotics in the morning. I have, make sure I get, depending on time of year, take vitamin C, vitamin D, things like that. So yeah, those are important as well, to make sure you're getting your vitamins and minerals in, because they make a massive difference to your sort of energy levels too. And then the food aspects of stuff like diet, obviously we can discuss it later a bit more in detail, but I think it's like consistency. Like I think I've massively found it. If you don't have a consistent diet, your body's like, what's going on? Like if you normally have breakfast in the morning and you don't eat it, you're sort of throwing your body out a little bit. So it's trying to find a consistency in your diet. Obviously, I've gone through periods of tracking calories, but right now I'm really not in that space. I'm much more on just like eating for fuel and making sure my energy levels are on point. So yeah, mixture of all of that is sort of my go-to sort of daily routine as such.
Brilliant. I mean, and you are doing a lot of exercise. So do you have to max out your calories? Like, I know you're not counting them specifically, but are you always thinking, right, I need to have at least 3 meals, or even are you eating more than that? What's your sort of standard go-to meals that you guys go for?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, like when I first joined Peloton, I used to work out a hell of a lot on top of my classes.
Really?
And we were teaching maybe 8 and 10 classes a week. So it was a lot. And I used to have to eat 5,000 calories, just to maintain maintenance.
Wow.
I realized quite quickly that was quite unsustainable. So I've actually dialed my workouts back. I now wear a fitness tracker. I've got an Oura ring, and also nice. I've used Whoop quite a lot in the past, just to track my recovery, because it's hard to, obviously a tip that you always get told is just listen to your body, but not everyone knows how you should be feeling when you're fully exhausted versus you just feel a bit strained after a workout. So for me, they give you a bit of an indication around how your body actually is. And obviously how your sleep was and things like that. So I do wear, a Whoop band, and I like the Oura ring for sleep tracking as well, because it gives you an indication of how hard you should be hitting it the next day in terms of workouts. But yeah, so then I try and, within those, you can try and see how many calories you're burning each day. But I'm not that strict on it, because I don't think life, unless you're you've got an end goal and you're trying to lose weight, or you're planning for a competition or something like that, then you can be a bit more strict with it. But I'm currently just focused around health and well-being, making sure that my mental health is on point. And I think you need to be eating good food for that to be the case. So yeah, I think I'm a bit more flexy at the moment, but I have gone through periods of being super strict. I think MyFitnessPal is a great tool to use if you ever do want to count calories. When I used to PT, I used to give it to my clients just for a 2-week period, just to give them an indication of what they are putting inside their bodies and how that breaks down to, their macronutrients. I wouldn't necessarily say you should always do it, but just having a 2-week period on something like that gives you a good context of how much you are putting inside your body. Because there's a lot of people that used to undereat, which is actually also as detrimental as overeating. So yeah.
So Ben, final question, and this is the one that we ask to all of our guests. What's the one small change you've made that you wish you made earlier in your life?
That is an amazing question. So what I'd say is 2 things. Stop trying to prove myself to people who really don't matter, and ensure that I'm spending time with people who are going to help me level up. So in my early 20s, I moved into the world of finance. and I was still getting to know myself, still learning about myself. And at the time, I started to value things like nice suits, nice watches, going to super expensive restaurants, things like that. And what was really interesting is that it really didn't make me happy, but I thought that I needed those things to sort of have a certain status. As I got to know myself a lot better, I've realized that that is absolutely not the case. And what makes me happy is impacting those around me in a positive way. And achievement is definitely seen through sort of your impact on society. So that, alongside the fact that I'm a massive believer of you are the average of 5 people you spend your most time with. So I think for me in my early 20s, I had a massive friendship group. And across the last few years, or across the last 10 years or so, I've realized that a small group of friends who are super supportive and who will help you grow and level up is a vital. So those are the 2 things I would have changed probably quicker. And I hope that's a good answer.
So Ben, thank you so much for joining us on the One Small Change podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing about your journey, and I look forward to seeing you again as I jump on my Peloton tomorrow morning and riding with you. And hopefully we'll do it in person again sometime soon. So thanks a lot, and really appreciate you spending the time with us today.